We'll be in a second. Thanks very much for coming today. I wanted to say a few words about my colleague, the member for Boothby, Nicolle Flint. Nicolle has announced her intention to not recontest the next election. Nicolle's decision is one that we respect and understand. It's a personal decision by her, a very personal one, but also one I think informed by her desire to continue advocating in different ways to ensure that everybody engaged in the political debates of our nation are engaging in a safe and respectful manner. I spoke to Nicolle today about her decisions, and that was her one message that she wanted to make sure was heard by all, to make sure that people understand her desire to see political engagement occur in a safe and respectful way. And Nicolle has, over her 2 terms in Parliament, been a passionate advocate for the people of Boothby, securing critical infrastructure projects in her local community, been a champion of quite sensitive and challenging issues, sharing her personal stories in relation to health battles, particularly working with those affected by endometriosis and working with those impacted by the tragic loss of stillbirth. And I think Nicolle has shown incredible strength in championing and advocating such difficult and sensitive and personal issues through her time. But it's also no secret that she faced a very bitter election campaign last time, and that she saw appalling behaviour towards her and her campaign during that election. And indeed, Nicolle has been on the record consistently since in terms of pointing out where behaviour, particularly attacks from the left, from Get Up and others, have threatened her, have threatened her office, her staff, her volunteers and those working alongside her. Just most recently, on the 17th of February, Nicolle spoke in the House of Representatives about the latest protests, attacks and graffitiing of her office, and just the inappropriate way in which people were seeking to make their political points. And her view is that people obviously can disagree, should have passionate policy discussions, but that it shouldn't denigrate to the point of graffitiing officers, of personal slurs, let alone the type of stalking and harassment that she faced in the last campaign. So we respect and understand Nicolle's decision not to recontest the next election. It's disappointing. The Liberal Party, of course, will go through our normal processes involving all of our grassroots members in Boothby to select, I'm sure, another outstanding candidate to continue Nicolle's work, the Liberal Party's work in a seat that we've held since 1949. Personally, I want to say that over many years, I've seen the types of behaviour in campaigning that I can understand rattles candidates and causes genuine concerns for people's safety, as Nicolle has felt at different times, and indeed, as I know others have felt along the way. When I was a marginal seat candidate in 2004, I had a boulder thrown through my campaign office window that smashed it. We had different protests, different disruptions, and these types of attacks on campaigns and on political candidates do nothing to advance the causes. In the time since 2004, the rise of social media has only made matters worse. And frankly, for politicians, for candidates, for journalists as well, all those engaged in the political class, if you were to go through and constantly read all of the messages about you on social media, it would be a constant exercise in self-harm. And the best thing to do is to turn away. But it shouldn't be like that. Now, unfortunately, all political parties have cheer squads who say and do things that are inappropriate and that they shouldn't do. And my message to all of them is just to stop it, to rise above it, to recognise that everybody in politics, be they the journalists, be they the politicians, be they the unpaid candidates offering themselves for the first time for office, they are there to pursue policies and issues, and they'll respond to you on policies and issues, but leave the personal vitriol behind, leave the anonymous hatred behind, leave the attacks and the viciousness behind. Let's try to make sure that everyday citizens, through to political activists, don't just hurl abuse through anonymous Twitter trolling or front up and violate officers and campaigns and harass or intimidate candidates, let's actually try to all commit to having a more respectful and safer political debate as Nicolle has wished for. And certainly within the Parliament and the issues that we have faced that have been highlighted in the last couple of weeks, it is my deep intent and desire to make sure that the multi-party independent review that I've been consulting on achieves a workplace and working environment that accords maximum respect, maximum safety and maximum knowledge of how to address difficult issues in the future.
The campaign's been very public.
I'll work my way around.
It's been reported that Nicolle felt that the South Australian Liberal Party did little to protect her from the abuse and bullying. Do you think the Liberal Party could have done more?
A lot was done during the last campaign to try to support Nicolle at the campaigning level. From the Premier, through myself and others, did what we could in terms of multiple visits and action on the ground in working with Nicolle. At the leadership level, there were many discussions to try to work through the best way to support her in a very challenging environment, and it did ultimately lead, as people would recall, to police engagement during that campaign. Look, I think we all would wish that Nicolle had not faced that, and we'd particularly wish, and she would wish, that it had not even continued after the election campaign, after she called it out, after it was so publicised, that you still, just early this year, had Extinction Rebellion types fronting up to her office, graffitiing her office, undertaking actions that just undermine the confidence of someone like Nicolle or any other candidate, frankly, to feel that they can campaign in a safe environment. In a country like Australia, all of our candidates should feel that they can get out there and safely campaign.
Does the resignation show that it is harder to be a woman in Parliament, particularly in the Liberal Party?
No, look, I don't accept that, but I think we have to work, as Nicolle has implored and as I implore, to make sure that everyone feels safe and respected in engaging in political debate. And that is a task that falls upon all of us, not just those of us in the Parliament, not just those running for Parliament, not just those reporting on politics, but everyone who decides they want to engage in the political debate should step back and take a long, hard think about what the implications are of the type of violent, aggressive and disturbing campaign behaviour we've seen.
So you don't think it's supporting Nicolle Flint during the campaign since then, when she's come out so publicly on several occasions distressed about her treatment? What kind of support have you offered Nicolle Flint, and have you reached out to her personally to say that you're there for her?
So I've continued to engage with Nicolle, and I know the Prime Minister has on many occasions. We have worked to try to make sure that we support her office, her campaign, and have done so in the full expectation that she would be our candidate again at the next election, and that we would give her maximum assistance to have a better campaign experience next time. But unfortunately, we can't control the actions of the political activists, the left-wing activists in this case, who decide to threaten and undermine and violate the rights of Nicolle and her staff and her volunteers, and to feel that they can campaign and engage safely.
Should have been doing more to support her, given there's the low representation of women in the Liberal Party?
Well, I think that the Extinction Rebellion activists, the others who have continued a campaign of harassment and attacks on Nicolle, should have thought about the consequences of behaviour like this. Now,
you have stepped up and made sure that she was supported and felt like she could continue in her role, given there is such a lack of female representation. And how important will it be to replace her with a female candidate?
I'm sure the best candidate will be there, but I hope very much that we do see another strong woman replace Nicolle in that seat, and we will do everything possible to support them and to assist them to feel that they can have confidence to go out and campaign in a safe way. But that also requires others, political opponents, to make the same message and to heed that message. As I said before, I acknowledge there are, particularly on social media, activists from all sides of politics who cross a line in the way in which they engage with others, in the hatred that is spewed forward, in the types of personal attacks that are made, and people really should just appreciate there's a human side to that, but also it does nothing to elevate politics in this country. It does nothing to achieve your policy outcomes by simply spewing hatred towards somebody else.
Do you think that her critics felt more free to indulge in more extreme behaviour because she had more conservative views? They felt more able to do?
Look, I think candidates across the spectrum who go out and strongly put their views are often then the subject of increased attack from some of those who disagree with those views. Now, people should tackle the policies, the views, the ideologies and argue those matters passionately. They shouldn't go after the person. Okay? This is a classic case of play the ball, not the individual, not the person. And I think, yes, Nicolle, because of her views that she'd put forward, became a particular target for certain Green and left activists out there who really targeted her with hatred and with a sense of venom that undermined clearly her sense of safety in her workplace as a politician and a candidate. And those people ought to take a good long hard look at themselves and think about what they have done and the way that they have undermined the confidence that people have to engage in politics in this country. And to all of those who spew hatred and venom online, if you think that's going to help attract better people into politics, well, think again, because it doesn't. It makes it harder. Now, I'm sure we will find good, capable people willing to walk in Nicolle's shoes, who are willing to take up the fight that she has maintained during this time. But it is a clear message to everybody. There are consequences for this behaviour, and people ought to reflect on those consequences.
So, did you receive the same anonymous letter that Sarah Hanson-Young and Senator Wong received about historic sexual allegations? And if you did, will you be taking Prime Minister's advice and forwarding it to police?
No, I did not, and I have asked my office to double check, and to the best of all our knowledge, I have not received that information. But were I to receive such information, then consistent with the advice of the Federal Police, I would certainly be forwarding and transmitting it to them. My understanding is that it was received in the Prime Minister's office yesterday, and it was speedily transferred to the Australian Federal Police, who can bring appropriate independence, expertise and thoroughness to undertaking any investigation that's necessary.
Did any other South Australian Liberal MPs receive that?
Not to my knowledge.
You talked about at some length about social media and so forth. Since the publication of that letter last night, there's been a lot of speculation with people putting Venn diagrams together about who it may be, and you're one of the people who's been mentioned in this. Should the person who's at the centre of these allegations come forward, or should there be some identifying of him to sort of clear the air for the government?
Everybody is entitled to natural justice, and it's important to back the police to do their job. We back the police to do their job in this and every other instance, and that's the right way to handle this. I don't wish to see anybody lose their rights to natural justice. I want to see the police empowered to do their job.
This is a case where tragically the woman involved is no longer with us, so it's unresolvable as a case. But in the meantime, essentially the cabinet is going to be slandered by the fact that people are going to be speculating about who it is. It's got to be a matter of real complexity given the seniority of the person who's supposed to be. How does the government resolve this? Don't you have to actually get the minister involved to stand aside?
Well, I'm not sure then how you think it would be resolved thereafter. So I think we have to respect that we have justice systems in Australia, that everyone is entitled to natural justice, and that in this case, if allegations have been made, as I understand from media reports they have been, that we have to back the appropriate authorities, the police, to do everything they can to investigate and to their satisfaction determine the appropriate course forward, free of any sense of political interference or direction.
So you don't think the minister in question should step aside?
I think we should back the police to do their job.
Given the pressure that the government's been under over the treatment of women for the last few weeks, is the departure of the female the bad timing?
We would wish that Nicolle had felt safe and respected enough in her job that she could go into the next campaign and have the strength to do so as she has shown for so long. But we will get a new good candidate for Boothby. I sincerely hope that it is a strong, thoughtful woman of Nicolle's ilk, if I can say, who will take us forward in Boothby in a way forward that continues her good work in different areas for the people of Boothby in those other sensitive areas that I've mentioned, as well as no doubt continuing to be a champion for safe and respectful political campaigning in all its forms.
Would the party consider it a quota for female representation?
We just over the last few weeks have pre-selected a new Senate candidate in Karen Little. We've pre-selected new candidates at a state level in Mawson, in Schubert and in Frome, all of them putting forward strong, capable, credible women to represent the party. I think we are seeing that our party members in their pre-selection decisions are making decisions to effect change, and I welcome that very, very much.
Even without a quota?
Party members are speaking with their votes in recent pre-selections, the vast majority of which, often in safe Liberal seats, have now gone to new, strong, capable women, and that is something I welcome very, very much and encourage our party members across the country to continue to make those decisions that will affect meaningful change for the future. Thanks, everyone.
No worries.